Welcome back to a very special interview. I'm so excited to bring #Strong and Let's Talk Careers together. This is an incredible opportunity for me, and I hope it's an inspiring interview for you. I welcome Meryl Evans with me here today. Meryl is reaching out from Plano, USA. She is a LinkedIn top voice in disability advocacy. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a public speaker, and she's an accessibility consultant. Welcome, Meryl. It's so much an honor to have you with me today.
Thank you so much for having me today, Maria. I look forward to our conversation.
I'm so honored that you took the time. I know you're really busy. We're not going to take too much of your time. I think today's interview for me is absolutely incredible because I want young people around the globe to know that there should never be a limit on what one believes about oneself. You encapsulate the most incredible parts of inspiration that I've ever come across. I came across your platform probably a couple of months ago, and when I reached out to you, you were like, yes, I want to do this. And it's just so exciting. Why is it important for you, Meryl, to be here and share your journey with the youth across the globe?
So to let everyone know, I was born profoundly deaf. That's why you're hearing an accent that you may not be familiar with, because it came with the deafness. And when you have a disability, sometimes it can make life a little challenging because people are not used to being exposed to someone different from them. And it's important to educate today's diverse youth to, if they have a non-apparent disability or they meet someone who may or may not have a disability, you just never know, because about 20% of the world have a disability. And 73% of the world is affected by a disability because they may have a relative or a friend. And the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it. We should not be afraid of it at all. And if people are afraid to say disability or disabled, they're coming up with euphemisms, and that's not necessary. It's okay. Disability and disabled are good words. They're not bad words. So.
As I'm listening to you, I'm getting really emotional talking to you right now. And I think the reason I'm getting so emotional is because I think that you're right. It is so hard to say to someone disability. And I think it's because we're so afraid of upsetting the individual. I'm sure you must have come across people that have told that to you. How do you react to that? And how is it different to how you reacted to it when you were a teenager?
Definitely when you're a teenager, it could be more challenging. Unfortunately, most kids were nice to me. They just didn't include me in the circle. That's where it was more challenging for me. I felt like an outsider because I don't belong in the deaf community, the deaf culture, because I'm not fluent in some language. And it's just how my life worked out. I have never learned some language, and that's not a good or a bad thing. It just is. It's just what works in my life. And then there's the other side where, can you repeat your question? I lost my train of thought.
Well, when people must have spoken to you about, or maybe people were afraid to tell you the word disability. How are you handling that now? And how did you handle it when you were a teenager?
Thank you. So the most common phrases that people use today that are accepted are deaf or hard of hearing. I am profoundly deaf. I am legally deaf. Plain and simple. But growing up, I used to tell people I was hearing impaired because it felt, for lack of better word, less disabled than deaf. That's not right. I know it. But I was a teenager trying to survive a very challenging time in my life, right? Now I don't like to say hearing impaired because the word impaired is something else. So, but so all people who self-identify as hearing impaired, and we have to respect that. So don't get tripped up on language. Just, I remember I was in a meeting, a diversity committee meeting, and the host of the meeting was saying, we have representation from all groups, race, religion, and abilities. And I said, it's okay to say disability. And he said, thank you. And that helps me a lot. So if we educate people rather than berate people when they make a mistake, we will be able to open many more doors for a great conversation and learning experiences from each other. So don't be afraid to say it or ask what to say.
Tell me about the experiences that you had as you were growing older, and maybe your friends or your cousins or relatives, siblings, were beginning to plan their adult life, thinking about a career or an occupation. How did you find your way to where you are in your role as an advocate and a public speaker?
It's been an interesting journey. So after college, I worked for the federal government in higher education. And a lot of what I did was writing, training, marketing, and overseeing programs. And then I wanted to move back to Texas where I was born and raised. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I went to work for two different telecommunication companies. How interesting is that? A deaf person working for a telephone company. So before they became the communication conglomerate they are today. And in those roles, I worked in business process management. So I looked at business processes to make them efficient. But through all that, I was still doing writing and marketing in some form or shape. By the time 2005 rolled around, I have accidentally built up my side business as a writer and marketer to a full-time job. So I retired from the corporate world and went to work for myself. But I never wanted to go in business for myself because companies can hire who they want, when it's a freelancer or a contractor. And they would rather hire someone who can handle a phone call the normal way, to pick up the phone. But for me, I had to do a workaround to do phone calls. So I kind of avoided them because they're not as efficient. So, but I loved the work I was doing. I was fortunate to have clients with referrals for so many years. That was the best way because people think, oh, she's going to be too much trouble to work with. But in reality, people with disabilities bring so much to a company, much more than you can get from someone who doesn't have a disability. Because we've been excluded for so long, we've had to work around our entire lives that we have come up with innovative ways and solutions for accomplishing things. And that skill right there is very hard to get when you don't have people with disabilities on your team.
That is incredible. I love that you brought that, because when I speak with young people about skills for the future, resilience and being adaptable and being innovative are those top skills that employers are looking for. And here you are telling us, and it's so true, you've had to really think about how to do things to kind of get around the box of normal, or what the world would define as normal, from when you were a child until today. For a young person watching this right now that might be a person of determination in whatever category they would describe themselves to be, what tip can you offer them to get through the emotional journey that it might feel like for them as they're looking at you and thinking, wow, how do I get to where Meryl is? That had to be really easy for her. You know, sometimes young people make excuses for why somebody else could do it and they can't. What tip can you offer them?
Well, first of all, it was not easy. It's like that. You may have seen that picture of an iceberg, and you see at the top of the iceberg, it's a little bitty iceberg, and it shows the dash journey, you know, but people don't see what's below the surface, below the water. The resilience, setbacks, failures, so many things happen that nobody sees. So it looks easy, but it's not. You have to work at it. You have to be an advocate for yourself because no one will speak up for you. Maybe your parents, but when you grow up to be an adult, it's going to be your responsibility. So it's to be open, be adaptable, as you said, Maria, to be flexible, to be willing to learn and educate others as well. That's how I approach my advocacy. I don't chide people. I don't point my finger. I educate. I share what I learn with you, with everyone, and to find your community. What I mean by that is on LinkedIn and Twitter, well, before Twitter started falling apart anyway, there were hashtags you could look for to find other people of disabilities. For example, a common hashtag is hashtag accessibility, hashtag A11Y. The reason it's A11Y is there are 11 characters between the letter A and the letter Y to spell accessibility. So it's a shortcut, and we are allies too. So it's a double bonus. So look for hashtags that resonate with you, and that can be how you can find others in the same boat. It's amazing how it helps me. I've met deaf people with a variety of background and communication preferences online, and we support each other, and we can talk to each other when we struggle. So try to find those people who have the similar background that you have and help each other out.
Hashtag Strong was created in the memory of my daughter, and losing her inspired me to think about how I can help families and teenagers who may be going through life's toughest moments and feel really alone on that journey. Watching you right now, you come across as so confident, and it's definitely a journey that you've been on. How did you overcome those feelings of maybe feeling left out when the teenagers didn't include you? How did you overcome feelings of loneliness and feeling, where do I fit in? I don't fit in with people in this side of the world, and I don't fit in with people on this side of the world. How did you overcome that? Because young people are struggling with trying to fit in, but at the same time wanting to stand out.
It is a challenge because even today, even with all my accomplishments in the last couple of years, I get imposter syndrome, just like everybody else. I'm like, maybe I only got this far because I'm deaf. It's interesting. Being deaf seems to hold you back, but it also feels like it gives you an unfair advantage, especially when you work in the world of disabilities. People, I was worried they would think I only got all these speaking opportunities because I'm deaf. You know what I'm saying? Underrepresented groups are being lifted, but that's not the case at all. It took time to build up those speaking. It started with a conference inviting me because of the videos I made about high quality captions, and that led to an invitation to another event. So I have always been comfortable with public speaking, but I am also a realist. I knew I have a speech, an accent, and I did not know how well or not it would be received by the public. So when people were inviting me to another event, that means the message that my voice is welcome. And it's okay that I sound different. So it's been very fortunate that way. So I just kept writing, I kept making videos, and it just led to more and more opportunity. So I would say find something you're passionate about and work on that, because that keeps you going. If you're doing something you don't enjoy, it's very hard to overcome the thing that holds you back. So being left out is one of my weaknesses, because it made me upset and lonely, like you said. So I try. It's not easy, weekends are hard for me because you don't have the structure of a daily schedule, keeping you busy, keeping your mind off the things that are not working out for you. So it's important, stay busy, stay on a schedule, but you also have to take a break. Those weekends let me get my energy back so I can do it again next week. So taking care of yourself is also very important. And otherwise, we'll burn out. So after all, the airline tell you, put the mask on yourself first before you help someone else. Because you're no good to that person if you pass out trying to help them and you don't have a mask on. So it makes you better for other people when you take care of yourself first. So it's not selfish to take care of yourself.
Meryl, I want to talk about parents and the challenges that they're facing as they're trying to help their children through moments of loneliness, of challenge, of children wanting to give up because maybe other children at school might be looking at them different or thinking of them different, or as you said, excluding them. As you've kind of gone through your journey and maybe reflecting on your own parents and how they supported you, what are some of the suggestions that you have for a mother and a father or a guardian, or maybe even a sibling with a member of their family going through challenges like you faced?
Well, I'm also a parent as well. I have 3 kids that I've raised, and one of them had, they all have different challenges, but one had a lot more challenges than the other 2. And I know it's so hard because you want to advocate for your kids and you don't want to see them going through tough times. And there are times where you just don't know how to help them, or if you're helping them the right way. We've made mistakes along the way and we've learned from them. So I was very fortunate. I had a great relationship with my parents, and they were my biggest advocates. For example, I did not go to the elementary school closest to me. I went to the one that was a little further away because my mom knew the principal there, and she felt like I would be in a better environment going there. So sometimes you have to explore a different school. I mean, of course, you're beholden to your law where you live. They may not allow you to transfer, but sometimes the situation calls for it, because I have met so many parents online who said the original school for the kids were awful. They didn't work out, and they moved them to another school. A couple of them took a couple of schools to find the right place, and they're in a really good place now. And I know changing schools is really hard because you may have to drive them every day, but as opposed to letting them take the bus, depending on your location. But it pays off in the long run because your child is happier and feels like they belong. Belonging is so important as they grow up. So that's one of the biggest things they can do. And the second thing is to find an advocate in the school, like a teacher or a counselor, that you can work with, who can help you navigate these tricky waters.
Meryl, you're incredible. When people tell you that, when people tell you you're inspiring and you're incredible and you are incredibly motivational, do you believe that when you hear those things about yourself?
Sometimes yes and no, because I don't know if the audience knows, though it's a wonderful, wonderful TED Talk by Stella. Oh, I'm blanking on her name now. It's really early my time, even though I'm an early riser, my brain hasn't kicked in yet. The coffee's not doing the job yet. Stella Young. Look for her TED Talk, Stella Young, and it's called I'm Not Your Inspiration. So it's about people putting people with disabilities on a pedestal just because they're disabled. No, it's like she got recognized by her study or something, but she didn't do anything. She didn't accomplish anything. But on the other hand, I know I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of speaking. And I mean, I didn't become a top voice for nothing. TED Talks, they don't just hand them out either. You have to earn it. So in that sense, I know I've earned it. But in other times, you're like, I feel staying here because of what I've accomplished. Well, I feel staying here because I happen to be deaf. And I did these things that other people have done. You know, like I've run a half marathon, but still have a million others. And I admire those who have run marathon. I have no desire to achieve that. And those who do just have my ultimate admiration.
I believe that you're inspiring and motivational because you're resilient. And I believe that you wake up every day and decide that you're not just going to take care of Meryl, but you're going to advocate for those whose voice might not be able to be heard. When you talk about feeling that imposter syndrome, which many people describe that they feel as well, how does that look like for you? Because young people don't understand the difference between feeling that imposter syndrome and actually being an imposter. I think they think sometimes that the feeling of not feeling enough, or maybe they're just giving me a chance because, like you were describing, they kind of personalize it and they own it, when in fact, it's a common feeling that many leaders around the world have also described as having.
Definitely, most definitely. I think all of us experience it one at a time or the other in our life. So the important thing is, most of us human beings, we think about ourselves. I mean, of course, I care about other people because that's why I do what I do. I want to help those who can't advocate for themselves for whatever reason. But in reality, human beings think of themselves first because they're living their lives every day. They're in a bubble. So how many times have kids gone on social media and think, oh, I've been excluded? They intentionally excluded me. They forgot to include me. But in reality, the person just trying to, it still has to do those posts where you share some of your favorite speakers or favorite people in their field. I'm always afraid I'm going to leave out somebody obvious. And I have. I mean, someone with my own last name that I love so much, I left her out one time. And I'm like, how did I do that? So we have to remember people are not intentionally doing things. It looks like it is. When you're in your shoes, in your mind, you don't see what's happening on the other side of the curtain. They're busy, they're multitasking, they're tired, so it makes it very easy to forget. So when you get opportunities, people are not doing it as a handout. They have too much going on in their life to do that. So you must have done something right that cost someone attention to earn what you have earned. So last year, I took a certification exam that I studied with all my might more than I did the SAT. Actually, I didn't study for the SAT because I have better things to do. So, but I really studied hard for the exam and I passed. So it's a certification in accessibility, basically. And that helped a lot with imposter syndrome because that certification showed I have knowledge about accessibility across the spectrum, not just about deaf people. I am not focused on just deaf people and captioning. I'm focused on a lot more than that.
Meryl, I could talk to you forever and ever, and I know we need to bring this to a wrap. I think as we're saying goodbye, just before we do, teachers might be watching this right now. There might be a student in their classroom, and they may feel unable to offer this child everything that they possibly can. We know that we're human, and we know that teachers are trying their best and trying to include students. What is a tip that you might offer a teacher that wants to give more but doesn't know how?
So first of all, I want to say to teachers, thank you for all you do. I'm sure you're doing way too much than your job description says. So thank you for that. And thank you for caring about that student that you just can't reach for whatever reason. And sometimes that happens. It's just like me as a parent with one kid that I didn't know how to help. So I would advise to those teachers, be in touch with the family, of course, if you can. I mean, who knows what the situation might be. Consult with your colleagues, see if there's something you can do to help. And be willing to get creative in a solution. I mean, maybe they need to move to another room, or I don't know. So talk to the other staff in your school. And you may have to reach outside of the school. Perhaps, for example, if you know what that kid is dealing with, if they're deaf, for example, you can contact a deaf-based organization and see if they have some advice from you. So don't expect big changes right away. Changes can happen with a little ripple, and those ripples can lead to bigger things. So it may be a small thing, as talking to the student for a couple of minutes in the morning. That's why my structure says progress, not perfection, with the accessibility icon, because that means everything you do to try to make progress matter, no matter how small it is. And sometimes you take 2 steps back, as I did with my kid. But in the long run, it will pay off.
Amazing. Just before we go, I know I said we would. I have one more thing to ask you. Talk to us about, what did it feel like to be on the TEDx stage?
Oh, exciting. I wasn't nervous. I was too busy trying to memorize my speech. And it was funny because the slideshow had a phantom. The slide kept changing, and I had the remote, and I made sure my hand was over the part without the button, and yet it kept changing. I'm like, stop it, you're distracting me. But thankfully, the TEDx came out as well as I imagined. And I'm very grateful, and I'm not proud of a whole lot of things in my life, but I am so proud of that talk and the way I organized it, because it has helped people get in my shoes for a minute and experience what it's like to be me. And I gave them a call to action at the end that I hope everyone will start doing, and that is learning to communicate in multiple ways. So if we met in an environment that's so noisy and so dark that I can barely see you, maybe we can text each other, even though we're right next to each other. So always have a second way to communicate with you. And I'm sure not if you have cell phones, and that's one of the best communication tools, because I have multiple ways of communicating.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Meryl, for being with me today. And thank you everyone for watching. This was an incredibly special interview for me. We're relaunching #Strong and bringing Meryl, who is the LinkedIn top voice in disability advocacy. She is a public speaker and she is an accessibility consultant. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching. And we'll see you at our next #Strong next month.